The chamber was so quiet you could hear the click of a pen 3 rows back. Cameras rolled, C-SPAN's red light glowed like a sniper's dot, and every Democrat on the dais leaned forward as if pulled by the same invisible string. Then Representative Jasmine Crockett stood up, smoothed the sleeve of her fire engine red blazer, and let the silence stretch just long enough for the whole country to feel it coming. "Mr. Speaker," she began, voice low, almost conversational, "I did not come to Congress to play patty cake with fascists." A ripple shot through the room. Republicans shifted in their seats. The press gallery scribbled so fast it sounded like rain on a tin roof. Crockett didn't smile. She let the word hang in the air, fascists, until it settled on every desk like dust that wouldn't brush off. "Let's not kid ourselves with pretty euphemisms tonight," she continued, stepping out from behind the microphone so the cameras had to chase her. "We are not debating policy differences. We are not having a spirited disagreement between two equally legitimate visions for America. We are watching, in real time, the deliberate construction of an autocracy machine, stamped with gold letters that spell TRUMP, and paid for with the last scraps of our democracy." She paused, looked straight into the center lens, the one that beams into millions of living rooms, and dropped her voice to something just above a whisper. "And if we let them finish the assembly tonight, tomorrow there will be no more elections worth the paper they're printed on." That was the moment the internet broke. Within 30 seconds the clip was already bouncing from phone to phone. Jasmine just called it a coup on live TV. Within 2 minutes #Autocracy Machine was trending higher than the World Series. By the time she reached her third sentence, staffers in district offices from Atlanta to Anchorage were texting each other the same 3 words, "She's cooking." Crockett paced now, slow deliberate steps, heels clicking like a metronome counting down to something irreversible. "Let me walk you through the blueprint, because they're not even hiding the architecture anymore. Piece by gleaming piece, they have spent the last 18 months bolting this thing together while some of us were still pretending norms and decorum were bulletproof vests." She raised one finger. "Piece number 1, the judiciary. They told us Roe was settled law, then they murdered it in the dark. They told us presidents couldn't shoot someone on Fifth Avenue, then they told us a president can shoot democracy itself and call it official business. The Supreme Court is no longer a court. It is a rubber stamp with 6 lifetime appointees who believe the Constitution comes with an asterisk that reads, unless the boss is Republican." She raised a second finger. "Piece number 2, the states. Look at Georgia, my home. They passed a law that literally lets a handful of partisans overturn an entire election because they didn't like who won. They bragged about it. Called it election integrity. That's like an arsonist bragging about fire prevention while he pours gasoline on your porch. Texas is shipping migrants on buses like cargo to score political points. Florida is banning books faster than they can print them. This is not federalism. This is feudalism with better branding." Third finger. Piece number 3, the Congress. Right now, tonight, the Speaker of this House is prepared to let a man who tried to hang his own vice president waltz back into power without so much as a background check. They have gutted the Ethics Office, turned the Rules Committee into a loyalty pageant, and transformed the People's House into a wholly owned subsidiary of Mar-a-Lago LLC. And when we object, they call us radical. Honey, the only thing radical here is the speed at which they're radicalizing themselves into full-blown authoritarians. She stopped pacing, planted both hands on the lectern, and leaned in so close the microphone squealed. But the most dangerous piece, the engine that makes the whole machine purr, is the propaganda network that convinced half this country that up is down, truth is fake, and January 6th was just a tourist visit with extra cardio. A Republican coughed theatrically. Crockett didn't flinch. "Yes, Congressman, I said propaganda. Because when a news channel has to pay $750 million for lying about an election and then goes right back to lying the next day, that's not bias. That's a state-sponsored disinformation campaign with better graphics than Pravda ever dreamed of." She straightened, voice rising now, filling every corner of the chamber. "And the fuel? The fuel is fear. Fear of black people voting. Fear of brown people crossing borders. Fear of women making their own medical decisions. Fear of children learning actual history. Fear of gay couples holding hands. Fear of anything that doesn't look like the 1950s postcard they keep trying to stuff us back into." Crockett let that land, then softened, almost tender. "I'm from Texas 30. My district is Dallas, Oak Cliff, Pleasant Grove, South Dallas, places where folks still remember redlining like it was yesterday. Places where the Klan used to ride openly and the police looked the other way. My constituents sent me here to talk like this. They did not send me to Washington to learn how to whisper when democracy is screaming. She pulled a single sheet of paper from her folder, held it up so the cameras could zoom. This is a copy of the pardon list floating around certain caucus chats right now. Over 200 names. Insurrectionists. Extortionists. People who beat police officers with American flags. And at the very top, before we even know if he wins, is Donald J. Trump promising himself a pardon for crimes he hasn't even been sentenced for yet. That, ladies and gentlemen, is not confidence. That is a confession with a press release. She dropped the paper like it burned her fingers. Now I know what some of my colleagues across the aisle are thinking. There she goes again, the angry black woman yelling. Let me help you with that stereotype real quick. I'm not angry because I'm black. I'm angry because my country is on fire and y'all keep handing the arsonist more matches while telling me to lower my voice. A few Democrats started thumping their desks. The sound grew until it rolled like thunder. Crockett waited for it to crest, then cut through it like a blade. They want you to believe this is about one man. It is not. Donald Trump is not the disease. He is the symptom. The disease is the willingness of an entire political party to trade the soul of this nation for 30 pieces of cable news silver and a few extra seats in gerrymandered districts. She walked to the edge of the dais, looked up at the gallery where activists and pages and tourists sat frozen. Young people up there, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, whoever comes next, listen to me. They are counting on you being cynical. They are counting on you believing your vote doesn't matter, that all politicians are the same, that the system is too broken to fix. That is the lullaby they sing while they pick the lock on your future. She pointed toward the Republican side. These people do not fear Democrats. They fear you. They fear the generation that outnumbers the boomers and the Gen Zers combined. They fear the generation that sees climate change with their own eyes and refuses to let billionaires cook the planet for profit. They fear the generation that grew up practicing active shooter drills and decided the adults failed them so catastrophically that they marched on Washington themselves. Her voice cracked, not with weakness, but with the kind of emotion that only comes when someone is speaking directly to their ancestors and their descendants in the same breath. My grandmother picked cotton in East Texas. My mother integrated schools in Dallas. I became a public defender because somebody had to stand next to the accused when the system wanted them silent and gone. And now I stand here, in this hallowed hall-turned-auction block, watching the same forces that terrorized my family for centuries dress up in suits and red ties and try to sell my country to the highest bidder. She took a slow breath. I am not going to let them do it without a fight they will never forget. The chamber erupted. Democrats rose as one. A few Republicans looked down at their shoes. The speaker pounded the gavel like it owed him money, but the sound was swallowed by the roar. Crockett wasn't finished. She held up both hands until the noise subsided. One last thing, she said, softer now, almost gentle. To every person watching this at home who feels small, who feels tired, who feels like the bad guys already won, I need you to hear me. This machine they're building. It is strong. But it is not invincible. Machines break. Gears seize. Bolts come loose. And every empire that ever bet against the American people lost that bet in the end. She stepped back to the microphone, squared her shoulders, and delivered the line that would be stitched on t-shirts before sunrise. They want an autocracy. But baby, we are still a democracy, and democracy bats last. Then she gathered her notes, turned on her heel, and walked out of frame while the applause chased her down the aisle and straight into history.